Okay guys, so we're going to do the warm-up for lesson 5 classwork. And this warm-up asks us to determine the values of x by simplifying. So these are all expressions that we need to simplify. They all have, you can see, radicals in them. Like this square root sign right there is a radical. What's up? Yeah, it sucks. I don't know how it's 80 degrees. It's like perfect temperature outside. Okay, so all we're trying to do here is simplify these, all right? The biggest obstacle is that we have this radical or this square root sign. So if the number inside the radical is a perfect square, then we can really easily simplify that just by taking the square root of it. But if not, we need to simplify it by factoring out any perfect squares that are factors of that number. Okay?
I need something else from there.
Dude, that's a really weak excuse. What's going on, man? Okay, just a minute, couple minutes, and then come right back, all right? So I'll tell you what, I'm going to do B and D over here because it's a little bit more challenging, and we'll have you guys do the other ones over here. So for B, I have x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 24 over 2. So my first step is to look here. I need to simplify this radical as much as I can. Is 24 a perfect square? No, it's not a perfect square. So let me list what are my perfect squares, and I can see if I can factor out any from that number. 1 squared is equal to 1, 2 squared is equal to 4, 3 squared is equal to 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36. And that's, no, I'll tell you what, I'll go even higher than that. 7 squared is 49, 8 squared is 64, 9 squared is 81. All right, that's as high as we'll go for right now. 10 squared is 100. All right, and that's as high as we're going to. 11 squared is 121. 12 squared is 144, and that's as high as we're going to go. Okay. 13 squared, glad you asked, is 169. 14 squared, anybody remember that one? Just flip the 9 and the 6, so it's 196. And then 15 squared.
We're on 25. Can we just get to the point?
225. Very good. So these are my perfect square numbers over here. Are any of them factors of 24? And I want the highest factor that's a factor of 24. So is 16 a factor of 24? No. Is 9? No. Is 4? Yes. 4 is a factor of 24. So just to show you guys up here how I could simplify the square root of 24 would be the same thing as the square root of 4 times the square root of 6, right? Because 4 times 6 is 24. The square root of 4 I can actually do. The square root of 4 is 2. So I end up with 2 times the square root of 6. Does that make sense on how to simplify that? I factored out 4 because it was a perfect square and it's a factor of 24. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do down here. I'm going to say x is equal to 2 plus or minus. I just showed you up here that we end up with 2 times the square root of 6, right? Instead of the square root of 24. All that's being divided by 2. All right. Okay, so I have up here, really I have 2 fractions. I could say that this is equal to, if I could split this, I need to do this 2 divided by 2. So I could say that this whole thing's equal to 2 over 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 6 over 2. All right, so all I did right here is I took this and I split it up into 2 separate fractions. I did 2 divided by 2 then I did plus or minus the square, 2 times the square root of 6 divided by 2, and that was this divided by that. I see that the drawings up there are confusing, but you guys see what I did right there? Just split it up. Okay. So now I can just simplify this, and I can say x is equal to 2 divided by 2 is 1, and I get plus or minus. And I can simplify this because I have a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom. So they each cancel out to a 1. And so I get x is equal to 1 plus or minus 1 times the square root of 6. And since it's just 1 times the square root of 6, that's just going to change to the square root of 6. So my final answer, I've got 2 answers. I've got x equals 1 plus the square root of 6, and I've got x or 1 minus the square root of 6. Those are my 2 answers for that problem.